Coming up at 8:05 p.m. Pacific on your local TBS station. It's So You Want to Be an Imagineer, the Inside Baseball Show.
Woo!
All right, that's right. Yes, Tegan, I always run my podcast 5 minutes late just to give myself the breathing room in case stuff goes wrong in the technical side of things. So, all right, welcome everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, Goofy, we were kind of having this conversation off air. And I'm sorry, I do just kind of want to bring it up. Y'all, I'm sorry, like I should be apologizing, but like I know how y'all are kind of feeling about the lack of there's not a lot we can do about the dropouts, and obviously I feel like everyone kind of had valid reasons for doing so. Mm-hmm. I feel like Lizzie was kind of forced into sort of an awkward spot socially. I feel like Space is the dropout where I very much like, I really respect it. And then Disney Dad, honestly, Disney Dad, it happened out of nowhere, and I genuinely hope he's okay and not, and I genuinely hope he didn't have any sort of like negative experience with the game at all. I don't think he did. But folks, just know that we are kind of, mindful that it might be a little bit of a detriment to the actual competition side of things, but also be mindful of the fact that I do think that throughout the last 3 rounds, we have seen some of the best creative stuff in a long time in this game. I feel like the Nickelodeon stuff, very much one of the most ambitious projects in the game's history. The Downtown Disney project gave birth to the Rockwall meme, which is not nothing. and then I feel like this round in particular, I still think it's like a Mount Rushmore project for me. I truly like the round was so niche. It came right after a really big project, and y'all still knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. See, I want to say this is what we were talking about before. Is that like I completely get having played in these games before. It sucks a little bit to like not feel like there's any stakes. Like obviously you want to keep moving on, but whenever there's no threat of getting eliminated, it kind of it's less. It's a little less exciting, but that doesn't take away from everything that that y'all have done so far. And we're going to obviously talk about this project. It was a fantastic project, and you guys have been really on a roll these past few rounds. And on a personal level, it does really stink that people are dropping out for various reasons. I understand why it happens. Life gets in the way. People get busy, all that stuff, 100%. But like, it would have also been really painful to have to do eliminations based off of this, off these past couple rounds. That being said, we are not asking you to drop out. Please stay in the game. We would like to we would like to do some eliminations. The whole reason I signed up to judge is because I love crushing people's dreams, actually.
Oh my God.
So, and I've been missing that the past couple weeks.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and just do some confessional corner time, since I feel like it's kind of the part of the subject at hand right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question that we asked was, how does it feel to make the final 7? And a couple people expressed kind of what we were talking about there, that like it's cool, and it feels good, but at the same time it'd feel better if the last 3 people to leave the game were actual eliminations and not dropouts. Which, yeah, completely understandable. I agree. Somebody said they feel lucky, and somebody else just said, I'm thrilled to be in the final 7, but it's going to get harder from here, which is definitely true. We know that we're not going to have like dropouts the rest of the way. I think that a lot of y'all are like very invested in this. So.
I would be very surprised if anyone else dropped out at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, Disney Dad, like you said, came out of nowhere, but still, everybody else seems very, very committed to the game. So hopefully that lasts. The second question was, do you think any obvious winner picks have emerged yet?
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of an interesting question. One person said, "My actual answer is, just about everyone remaining has a reasonable shot, but there are two players specifically who I believe will be the most difficult to beat." Now,
I really like that answer.
yeah, I know, and they didn't even list who it was. So, like,
Yeah,
I can
that's what I like
speculate, but I don't know. Somebody else said, "No, I think that anyone that's left has an equally strong chance at winning. We all have strengths and weaknesses. From what I've learned from the last two prompts, it all depends on the prompt itself. If it's geared towards what one person adores and another has never even heard of, I think that sort of thing will make or break it going forward."
Sure.
That's definitely a valid point. I will say that I do think that the projects are more accessible moving forward. Off the top of my
not
head,
the next one.
well, the next one's a little iffy, but I do feel like
I
it's more
feel like the
accessible
next
than.
one is kind of like an example of like I already sort of announced what the next one is off the top. We'll
Right.
kind of go back over the next one again, but yeah, the next one is absolutely like, I mean, we didn't design it for Tegan, but it is absolutely like a Tegan project.
Yes. Yeah, we're actually rigging the whole game for Tegan. Yeah, OSU. Well, actually, you could send in your confessionals, but I'd be reading them late, and so if you have anything you want to say about any of these questions, though, feel free to put them in.
Yeah, I mean, you're
comments.
like live right now, OSU, so I think at this point, just saying it in the comments would be probably the better option.
Yeah, definitely. And then one person was actually name dropped. Not going to say who it was, but that's the. So yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. I was expecting more name drops, but Okay, so then we got my personal favorite question, and Tiki, I feel like you asked this question out of like some sort of place of experience, so I want to know from you as well. What is your scariest childhood theme park memory?
Oh, my friend, I have a story. Do you know my Mr. One Way story?
No.
Do you know who Mr. One Way is?
No.
God damn it.
Hang on. I'll look it up right now.
Please look it up. Okay.
Mr. One Way Ghost.
Space Mountain. He's part of Space Mountain.
Right.
If Monkey, I know Monkey, he already told me he probably wasn't going to be live, but he knows exactly what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so I'm just going to lay out the story, Goofy, as you are looking up Mr. One Way. And
this is wild.
Okay, as you look that shit up, I am going to tell you my story, and just know that when this story happened to me, I had no idea what Mr. One Way was. I had never heard of Mr. One Way. I just thought it was a weird encounter, all right?
Oh, no way.
Okay, so I was in line for Space Mountain at Disneyland, and I had reached the point in the line where it's like, almost to it's basically the station, where you're kind of going down that ramp by the rocket, down to the rockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this dude had struck up a conversation with me. And, we were just kind of talking about God knows what. I don't really remember. But the one, like probably just about, general Disney stuff. But the one instance that really caught me off guard, and this was right around 2000. This was probably the first trip that I went on where I was brave enough to ride the Tower of Terror over at California Adventure, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I had mentioned that to the dude. I was like, "Oh yeah, I spent the morning riding Tower of Terror like 3 times. It's the first time I did it." And you know what the dude tells me? What is the Tower of Terror?
Oh, no way.
I swear to God.
No way.
I swear on my life. And he also told me he was a local. And I'm like, oh, it's that big new ride that they added in California Adventure. You know what he tells me? Guess what he fucking tells me, Goofy.
He asked you what California Adventure is.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Goofy, this is a man who claims that he is a local. Have you looked up the description of Mr. One Way yet?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let me describe this motherfucker for you. He's kind of a big guy, not really fat, but kind of on the bulky side. Kind of balding at the top, a little bit sunburnt, kind of red in the face.
Yeah.
Right? Sound familiar?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Guys, I am not making that shit up. I legitimately went through that shit, and he rode the ride with me. And I can't tell you, this is one side of the story that I'm going to just reveal to Monkey, where I will say that in the past, I have kind of exaggerated the story a bit, where it's like, and then the flash picture went off, and he was nowhere to be seen. I will say I was just kind of put off socially by the whole situation. Not the least of which being the fact that this grown-ass man is talking to like a 15-year-old and holding a conversation with him and basically insisting on riding the ride with him, right? Like that was kind of what was going through my mind when he was when he was asking to ride the ride with me. But yeah, all I can say is that when I got off the ride, I was not interested in like giving any sort of casual like, oh hey, it's been great, you know, or like any sort of awkward wave. I just bolted. So I don't know if the dude was there or not.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that is absolutely my Disneyland ghost story. And and to me, it didn't even really hit me until I read about Mr. One Way.
And how long after that was that you like read about?
I want to say it was a good at least like 6 or 7 years later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And when I read about Mr. One Way and that it's like something that people have like routinely encountered, it fucking slapped me in the face like a cold bucket of ice water.
That's so wild. Like you remember this encounter from like that long ago.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you who don't know who Mr. One Way is, I looked him up. Basically, he's a Space Mountain ghost described as a older man wearing like from the 1970s type, red hair, red face, and he regularly strikes up conversations with people in line and is gone at the end of the ride. That's man. You know, we should have read the other people's theme park memories first. Holy
nothing's
cow.
gonna top that shit. I know that's I have that story. That is like an ace in the whole story for me when I have conversations with Disney park fans. I know that story gets them.
That's a wild story.
Yeah. I actually kind of regret that I didn't save that story for a podcast with Peregrine, but Peregrine, you've been ghosting me, man. What's up? Get back to me on the horror podcast. He's straight up been ghosting me at this point. I think he's just pissed that I kept holding it off.
He's pulling a Mr. One Way over here.
Right. Oh, God.
All right. So I will read y'all's scariest park memories, which really have nothing on Tiki's. Okay. So the first person said, there may be scarier. Actually, you know what? I don't need to hide the identities of these people. These are funny. These are funny stories. I'm going to say who these are. I got to go back and find them now. So the first story was, there may be scarier stories that I can't think of now. And this is maybe more like ages 12 to 14, but still a memorable one. I was on the lower lot at Universal Hollywood, kind of near where the arcade used to be. I feel a hand on my shoulder, think it's someone in my group. I turn around and kind of with a "what do you want" eye roll, and the mummy is growling at me. I scream and jump and run away. I love that.
The exact same thing happened to my mother.
That's freaky. That's a little freaky. And that one was Monkey's story. Let's see. This one comes from Tegan. When I was 6 years old, I went on Space Mountain without entirely realizing it was a roller coaster, that would definitely be a surprise. And then she said that was traumatic. And then also Great Movie Ride was also a little scary at that age as well. I will say I rode Great Movie Ride whenever I was like little, and I like refused to ride it for like the rest of the time it was around. And I felt like really bad about it whenever it was gone. And I was like, man, I wish I'd done it again. But like, it's a little traumatizing with like the alien scene, and like the Wicked Witch was a little creepy, you know. I don't know. It was a scary ride for a little kid. So I feel you, Tegan. I see you. Let's see. This one is from Peregrine. This one's a little weird. One time at an after hours event, the Pirate and Princess Party at Magic Kingdom, I believe. It was like 2 a.m. and I went to the restrooms kind of between Crystal Palace and the Adventureland Bridge. And as I walked in, I saw a person's hand curled around the door
Right,
of the
I
maintenance
remember
closet.
this, yeah.
It wasn't up at like normal human height either. It was maybe a foot or two off the ground. It freaked me out, and I decided to hold it until we got further up Main Street. It's probably it was probably just a cast member bent over cleaning something, but it was so weirdly low to the ground and unexpected that it just felt wrong. Yeah, that would be a little. I could see that being a little surprising. Let's see. Brer Panther said that he just remembers it's tough to be a bug freaking him out.
Oh, dude, it's tough to be a
dude.
bug. Oh my god, that shit still scares me, man.
That's another one. Okay. So here's the trick. The trick is to lean forward to your seat and keep your feet off of
I don't
off
trust
the ground.
I don't trust the lean forward in your seat thing. I'm
Really?
legitimately to this day too paranoid to trust that.
Okay, so it's funny because like one time that I went on it, like getting punched in the back like that, like I actually hurt my back from it.
No, same, dude. The first time I did it when I was like 11 years old, I was sore for like 2 days because of that shit.
Right. So like I always like sat on the edge of my seat, but I was still getting brushed, like my shoes were still getting brushed. And so then I figured out where that happens. I pick up my feet. I'm hacking. It's tough to be a bug.
Oh my god.
All right, and then the last one comes from Pi, who said, I don't remember much specific, but I do remember that Journey into Your Imagination terrified me so much. He was about 5 years old when it was open, by the way, that he refused to ride the Figment redo for years after. And then also the Medusa head thing in Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando used to be easily the most effective theme park jump scare I'd ever seen.
Oh, yeah, I could see that for sure.
I have no idea what that is, but it does sound just the idea of a Medusa jump scare kind of. Yeah, that
you know what?
Me, I think.
The effect doesn't even really work anymore now, but the head is still there, and I feel like just it being there frozen is a little bit more creepy.
Oh man! All right, let's see.
My bestie came with me one year, and she was terrified of the spiders and stuff to be a bug.
Yeah, it's a disturbing attraction. What is your favorite internet urban legend? And I'm going to read these to you. I honestly I'm not very well informed on internet urban legends, which is why this project was so interesting for me. So I'll just read them off and see what you think about them. So we've got Luigi being in Super Mario 64.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty... I don't necessarily think that's creepy. I think it's more just intriguing, but that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Urban legend-wise, I'd have to go with the clown statue one, where the babysitter calls the parents, telling them the kids are upstairs asleep, and they're downstairs, and asks the parents if they can put something over the clown statue because it's really freaking them out. But the parents go like, "Well, what clown statue?"
Yeah,
that one
that's
always freaked me out, especially in the days when I was babysitting. See, I actually did know that one. That one's disturbing.
I feel like that one predates the internet.
Yeah, that's like a story. That's not an internet thing. And then the last one that we have is, as a big Zelda fan, I used to be super into Ben or B.
Ben Drowns.
Ben Drowns.
Yes, you surely know about Ben Drowned, right?
I don't. Maybe like a long time ago.
Really? Oh man, it's definitely something to look into.
Like I will say, like a very sheltered childhood. So like I get exposed to a lot of things like way after the fact. And also, though generally my favorites are the dumbest, Jeff the Killer is great because it's so dumb on every level. I have heard that one. I've seen that one. That one's crazy.
I will say, for anyone looking for a legitimately like damn good creepypasta, I have two to recommend to you. Baraska and 1999. Baraska, they actually Cole Sprouse actually just did an audio drama podcast adapting that, and it was damn good. Anyways,
that's kind of crazy. That's pretty.
No, it was really good though.
Huh. And then the last question was, what is Universal's greatest ride vehicle, and why is it the party bus?
Gee, I wonder why Tiki asked about the party bus this time around.
Well, I know that this must be Pi's favorite. This has to be Pi's favorite. Now, actually, his answer was pretty good. Party buses love, party buses life.
I love that Pi was the one who most played into the meme and he ended up getting it.
I know. Literally, everybody else, like party bus is a meme. I've never been to Universal, but I think the Cat in the Hat's kind of cool. Tegan just straight up said, "So y'all don't have much this round, do you?"
Tegan, I had a point for the party bus question. It didn't just come out of nowhere. I knew where I was doing with it.
And Pie's basically asking for it, like, party buses love, party buses love. But he does say that for real, the party bus / Kong vehicles suck and I hate them. Most Universal ride vehicles suck, but if I had to pick a favorite, the ET ones are pretty cool. That's pretty accurate. Universal's ride vehicles aren't really that great.
They're getting in trouble. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I low-key actually really like the party bus.
No way.
I swear to God.
Come on.
You know why I like it? Because it legitimately does give you that kind of like vibe of like, all right, we're going to a party. Yeah, like honestly, it plays into the meme of the ride, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I like the fact that it's got cool kind of like indoor limousine lighting.
That's it. It's the lighting.
No, honest to God, I think it's really cool that a ride vehicle has like individual lighting. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I get in the party bus and I do legitimately get the vibe. It's like, all right, let's fucking hop in this fancy limo and go to a party, yo.
But like, is that the kind of ride that you're actually going to wait any length of time?
Fuck no.
Right. So like my only experience with that ride is like we went to Universal for a couple days.
What they're trying to go for, and it's a bad idea, but they execute the bad idea pretty well.
Okay, okay. But the idea of being flawed is a problem. No, whenever I went to Universal for the first time, we were just trying to get every ride in because we were only in for like a day and a half or something like that. And we ended up waiting like 45 minutes for that ride. I was like, this might have been the biggest waste of time. It's like, that was it? But yeah. Anyways, so that's all of the confessionals, and we've been doing this for about 20 minutes, so...
It's all good.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything else to talk about, do we?
Well, we should probably
we're just done now, right? Oh, yeah, I forgot. We can talk about the project, I guess.
And let's just take this piece by piece, because I still maintain that this is genuinely one of my all-time favorite projects in the game's history. I'm not bullshitting you guys about that at all.
I was very impressed with it. The one I wanted to ask you off the bat, what did you think? Because you made a very big deal about like realism with budget and scale, and I wanted to know what you thought about it. Okay, having seen it,
I do think that on some level it's interesting. Like, I think some things were more realistic than, like, honestly, when I was reading through Tegan's backrooms maze, part of me was like, okay, this feels like there's a lot of space here. Yep. Like, because you're kind of going through the same rooms and stuff. But then the way that she explained the technology with like the mirrors and stuff, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, I think I made the point with the backrooms thing that I feel like the thing that would have pushed that over the edge in the realism department is if she would have made the backrooms a more standalone upcharge escape room style experience on top of the, like a really exclusive thing. Like, if you really want to do it, then you have to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because it is just a damn good idea. Tegan, I will say, like, oh my God. I mean, seriously, when you were reading it, did you not get a sense of anxiety and dread?
The fact that it was written like in first person, or not first person, but it's like telling you what's happening to you. Like, that was like, whew. Yeah, I was, I'll be honest, I was in class all day today, and so I like had to read this project during lectures. And like, I realized like that I spent like 10 minutes reading this and I hadn't heard a single word that my professor had said. And I was like, my palms were sweaty. I was like, well, what just happened?
Is there vomit on your sweater already? Mom spaghetti? No. I'm sorry.
but no, so that was my thought. Like, before we actually get into the project itself, my thought was as well that like it was a lot compared to what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting less, which isn't a bad thing by any means. You were the one that had the whole emphasis about scale and stuff. I was kind of like, just give me a good project. And
yeah, I think the carnival for me was the most realistic of everything that they did. because I swear to God, I don't know if whoever wrote that actually has been to Lagoon, but my God, that area that they placed the carnival in legitimately does just feel like your average county fair carnival setting. And it really, like, I could just see it working so well.
That was written by Monkey. Do you know if Monkey's been to Lagoon?
I know for a fact that Monkey has not been to Lagoon.
There you go.
But he also might have a little bit more context than just because of my trip, and I'm sure I've showed him photos and stuff. So I don't know, maybe. Sure. But
well, I will say that I thought that the back rooms as well, like 3 of them.
I mean, I think the back rooms is clearly like the highlight, right? Everything is fantastic, but the back rooms is clearly like the big standout,
right? But it also like it takes up space, but it's not something that would require a big budget. There's like no effects,
exactly, exactly.
Which is something that we can go ahead and get into. Start talking about the back rooms. I was blown away by the psychological terror angle that you went. Like there's no jump scares, there's no actors, there's nothing. It's just you and your thoughts, and you feel like you're going insane. Like, that it was just so impressive. Oh my gosh, yes. Like not at all what I was expecting coming into this. And it was like,
did you know about the back rooms before this project?
I did not know about like half of these. I did not know about the back rooms.
I feel like the back rooms is something like I first heard about it when it was like first kind of coming up. But I feel like it's sort of taken on a life of its own, and almost kind of like it's hard to keep track of all the lore involved with it. But what I really appreciate that Tegan did is I feel like Tegan really took the core concept of the backrooms that really captured people's imagination back when the concept first came online, and really brought it way back down to the core essentials. Like, we don't need any of these crazy, like, all right, there's 99 levels, and on every level there's another monster, and there's a Ronald McDonald monster somewhere. I swear to God, I saw a video of that.
Jeez.
There's a whole, like, liminal space McDonald's back room with a giant Ronald McDonald monster.
That's certainly something.
But yeah, like I said, Tegan, I think you absolutely did a fantastic job of really kind of like nailing what people initially caught on and captured their imaginations about with the back rooms, while at the same time avoiding the pitfalls of, I feel like, you know, kind of the same thing that happened with Slender Man, right? Like the fact that people almost kind of like, I feel like at this point, Slender Man has pretty much lost all scare factor. Just because of all the lore that people have added onto him.
Yeah.
No, I think the only scary thing about Slender Man at this point is like the real world traumatic stuff that's happened revolving him.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a different story, though.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard, did you listen to that podcast I did with Peregrine where he talked about the school project he was going to do with Slender Man?
No, I didn't. What was he going to do?
He was actually, when the real world Slender Man shit went down with the girls, he was actually knee deep into pre-production on a student film about the Slender Man.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so like that, oh man, like folks, go back and watch that episode I did with Peregrine. That was some riveting conversation. I was like hanging on every word when he was telling me about that. You know, he was like kind of telling me how like for a while the whole school kind of treated him and his friends like the weird people, and how the teacher had to have like the most freaking like, you know, sensitive conversation, like, you're not doing Slender Man, you know?
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I honestly think so too. Crazy. Like Marble Hornets was peak Slendy. Yeah, Marble Hornets was peak Slendy, indeed. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's nuts. That's pretty bad timing, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, so Russian sleep experiment. I believe this is OSU Phantom, right?
Let me double check. One thing that I did want to point out about the back rooms that I was a little confused about, I guess. I understand how the timing works as far as like, you know, whenever you like enter the next room, it unlocks so that a new person can come in. But like, you know, people are going to have like different responses to.
I'm going to tell you right now, with the crowd flow at Lagoon, the queue would be a fucking nightmare.
Right. Because my question is like, say that somebody gets into the second room and starts, panicking or whatever, and like doesn't do anything. Is the person in the first room just locked in their room until the second person moves? Like
I don't know, Tegan. Some clarification on that would be nice.
That's my question. Yeah, but like I said again, very masterful.
Again, I think if I just pretend that it was just like an upcharge experience that you have to pay like $50 to get into, and you basically have to like reserve your time to do it,
yes,
then I feel
100%.
like it's a lot more legit.
Right. No, masterful work with the theming and the psychological horror for sure. Just questions about the realism. Oh my gosh, it's locked. What? I was not expecting that to be the answer. I was expecting it to be, I didn't think it through all the way there. Wow. Oh no.
You were expecting to be like, oh yeah, if someone panics, we have people on call to go and get them out. They have emergency.
That is 100% what I was expecting. I was not expecting. Yeah, you're just stuck.
Fuck that shit.
That's horrible. Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, I went through when I went through the Bugs Maze at HHN this year. It was the second HHH maze that I ever did. And I started at the Stay and Scream. I started with the Weekend Maze, and then I went to Bugs. And pretty much everyone in the park was either at the Weekend or the Universal Monsters, or on the other side of the park doing something like, like Black Phone or Halloween, right? Like nobody had gotten to Bugs yet. So I swear to God, I went through that fucking bug house alone.
Oh, jeez.
It was terrifying. Like, it was legitimately, like, there was a certain point where I legitimately did not feel like I was going to be able to find my way out.
Oh, man.
Like, I just got so discombobulated. Just because, with mazes, you're always following people, right?
Right.
And there are certain points, like, obviously mazes aren't real mazes. Obviously with Universal, there's always a linear path.
Right.
But I have gotten, like, there was a maze that I did in the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk where I straight up went into an area that I wasn't supposed to be in, and the people had to, like, go over the camera and tell me, like, hey, that's not actually part of the maze.
Oh, man.
So it's like, I have done that before with mazes, right?
Right.
And so it's like, I was very much like, oh my God. Like, and the whole thing with that bug maze is that it's completely psychological. So I very much feel like I got kind of a taste of what Tegan's Backrooms maze would have been like with that experience.
That's
like I said, keep in mind, that was the second HHN maze that I had ever done.
Oh my God.
So I had like no context for like how big or small it was going to go.
Right.
Oh man.
Holy cow. That I can't imagine like being in, like the room that Tegan described. It's like a cube or whatever that like there's no obvious exit. And then it's like an illusion or whatever. Like, can you imagine finding that, like finding the way out, and then it doesn't actually move. I can't get out of here. Oh my gosh, you're like literally going to traumatize people for life. But anyways, that's what you were going for. Great job, Tegan. You scared me a lot. We're not rigging this game for you anymore. You've taken it too far.
Phantom, he's just like, correct, it was me. And like 4 minutes later, we're still not on Russian Sleep Experiment.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Russian Sleep Experiment. Yeah. This one was also really disturbing.
It was really great. I feel like OSU, you took some big risks with going with that Cold War stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And OSU, I know you have some background in I don't know exactly what, like some sort of like political sciences or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I know that you went to school for some sort of politics or something. So I very much feel like you took that, like your experience there, and like melded it into this in a very effective way. And yeah, I absolutely like, you probably haven't been to Scary Farm, I'm guessing.
No.
Fuck you. You're useless.
Oh, man. You sound like my mom.
Oh, God. Oh, you went to school for urban planning. Okay. Well, that's fair. I don't know why.
Well, that's close. Like, not really.
All right.
One thing I'm going to say off the bat is that I did like, and this isn't a knock on Tegan or anything, but I did like having a visual of the maze.
Mhm. Well,
For
I mean,
this
I feel
one.
like with Tegan, having a visual of that maze will kind of defeat the point, right?
No, that's fair. That's fair. Like it was a different style, and that's
Uh,
fine. Like her style was like literally you were living the maze. And that was a great way to go about it. And this was a different approach, and I did like getting to see where everything was. Because there were definitely a couple times just reading the back rooms where I was like, wait, didn't I just read this part? Which may have been the point, but actually that would have been really smart if that was kind of the point. Like you just threw in
I
some
think that was
repeat stuff.
absolutely the point.
Genius. But yeah,
Like
so
that was absolutely the vibe I was getting was,
yeah,
like, oh man, this is like psychologically scaring me just reading it.
there was oh jeez. This one this one was weird and scary in a very different way.
Mhm.
Like way less. I mean, there's
Still,
still the
my one comment on it that I wrote in my written feedback still kind of stands. I wish we would have had a little bit more FaceTime with the actual creatures.
uh-huh.
Because I do think you told it in a very unique way where you basically the whole gist of the maze is that the Russian sleep experiment is kind of going on in other parts of the maze while you are trying to like escape it. At least that's how I read it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like you obviously do come face to face with them, but I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, I kind of agree. Again, it's kind of tough with some of these mazes just because like you want to find the balance
Mhm.
between the jump scares and the psychological stuff. And
Sure.
I think that OSU did a really good job with that in general. Even like simple stuff like finding an open door with the gas masks, but it's just like the masks.
Oh,
It's
I'm
not
glad
like
you bring that up. Yeah, because I thought that was a really effective kind of build. You know what I mean? It
right.
like it creates an uneasy atmosphere, but there's nothing to technically be afraid of yet.
Yeah, exactly. And like all the details and stuff that are like building up this very realistic story. I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was this one point where he like said that there's like a random board game that was popular in the Soviet Union. And I'm like, what? That's just sitting on a table. I'm like, oh, okay, that's some research right there.
There should have
But
been a
yeah,
Tetris reference.
um,
I'm
but
still not
yeah,
convinced that the trailer I saw for the Tetris movie is not fake.
you think it's real?
I legitimately think it's. I honestly don't know. That's the thing.
That would be like, what the heck? It is a real thing.
Yes, it is a real thing. I told you.
That I really thought you were joking there.
No, I'm not. That's why
Wow.
I'm still questioning my sanity about it existing.
What is it, like a true story? Is it?
Yeah, it's a biopic about the guy who invented
Okay,
Tetris.
that is way different than what I thought it was.
Yeah. But
I was
it
like, this must
still
be the
feels like
weirdest
a
thing.
funnier die sketch if you watch the trailer.
Uh huh. Oh man. But yeah, so I thought, like Tegan said, actually, is that the realism aspect is honestly the most terrifying aspect of the experiments. Like it feels like an actual place that makes it so much more unsettling. 100%.
Sure.
And again, I think there was a pretty good balance, between the build up and the actual jump scares, a couple little things sprinkled throughout. But it's like that the build of anticipation to like you're gonna have some sort of encounter with these things, and the more you hear about it, the scarier it
Mhm.
gets.
That
So
makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
I thought it did a great job with this one. This one was like I said, very well executed, a great idea, very out of the box idea.
Mhm.
So yeah.
All right, let's move on to Brer Panther's Scooby Doo contribution, which I definitely think that this one was a little bit outside of the
Wait,
lines of the project requirements. It's
wait,
not
you
quite.
skipped one.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did we skip?
The four. The
Oh,
creepy
you're
poster.
right. We
Yeah.
did skip. Okay. And I'm sorry. Like, who did this?
Let me find out real quick. Okay. It
Oh
was.
my God. My
Oh dear.
grandma's cooking and she set off the fire alarm.
Oh man. This was Ace. Ace. Yeah.
Oh God. Why don't you tell people about it while I mute myself?
Sure. Okay. So this this one was. I just found something. Was trying to click through these slides that like really surprised me a little bit here. Oh no way. Okay. So we're gonna talk about aces a little bit. The forest thing. I will say, for those of you who actually clicked through the entire project, the first screen is like picking to go left or right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked to go left or right. But then whenever I was just scrolling back through them, because that's the only way you can get to the credits, I like skipped ahead, and then it's there's like you've ignored the links and just clicked the next slide, haven't you? And it's
The Ben drowned kid.
yeah, the Ben drowned kid, and then
Yeah.
and then it Dolly Parton, Michael Eisner, and then it takes you into the forest.
So I do
yeah.
think that out of the three main mazes, and probably even including the Scooby-Doo one, I think this was probably my least favorite. It wasn't bad. I just think it was a little bit like, I don't know, like baseline Slender. Like, it felt very, I guess it's appropriate that a Slender Man maze would be pretty much wall-to-wall jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it kind of lacked the atmosphere that the others had.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, I mean,
on that note,
like,
though, I think the Ben Drown stuff is like honestly one of the most creative presentation components that I've ever seen in a project.
that was
So
like
I
really
think this is
shocking
one of those. This is one of those cases where it's like the presentation element is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it still kind of elevates it, regardless of. I do think the content itself is a little less inspired than some of the other content in the project, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, it's obviously significantly smaller than the other two mazes. I I kind of understand why they went with it in that, if you ask for creepypasta, creepy urban legend, that sort of thing, Slender Man is like the top one. And just last round, we were talking about like, making sure like wanting to make sure that your headliners are things that people recognize a lot of times, talking like, oh, I wasn't there more attention to Scooby Doo, which is actually kind of ironic. There was more attention to Scooby Doo in this than there was in the previous project. But anyways, so I do understand why it was included because it's probably the most accessible one in terms of somebody who's like coming in with no context or experience in this sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a jump scare maze as a contrast to the others. It was just kind of a different vibe, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, it wasn't bad by any means. And like I said,
No.
presentation-wise, it was probably like a highlight.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that was just freaking me out there. I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" I was clicking through it. So that was pretty good, Ace.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on to Brer Panther. And I think his Scooby-Doo thing is like, he's really kind of creating a resume for himself. And I think he's I think he's really taking advantage of the fact that like in this season, it's less about like the position within the team and more about your own individual contributions.
Yeah.
Because I very much feel like Brer Panther is like a going by the beat of his own drum kind of player here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do think that, if I were to really nitpick this, I do think like I still am not entirely sure if it's a dark ride or a maze. Do you know?
That's what I was gonna bring up because
I'm not entirely
that was
sure.
my one nitpick with it is that it's definitely not a dark ride because he talks about walking on the tracks.
Right.
But it's like you're in this kind of walkthrough thing that has like animatronics. And I'm a little confused about how like those are separated from things and how there's a show happening while still being amazed because it's a cool idea, by the way. It's a really cool idea to have like to have it be like you're walking through an abandoned dark ride, like
well, I mean that's it's a very classic Knott's Berry Farm concept where it's been around for about like I don't know a little less than a decade at this point, so it's not exactly like classic, but yeah,
sure.
Knott's Berry Farm has a very well known maze. It's just called Dark Ride that I feel like this is very much inspired by.
But I will say that the combination of that plus Scooby Doo I thought was a really cool idea as well because it definitely feels like that kind of vibe.
It definitely, what I really like about this is that I feel like it really, really captures that old school kind of like post-depression vibe of Scooby-Doo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It
Because
does
I
feel like
feel like
old
with
timey
all
Scooby
the
Doo.
shit that Scooby-Doo has gone through as a franchise, with, the Velma of it all, and the more positive side of things with, how popular it's become with the movies and everything,
Yeah.
like, I feel like that core sort of like Depression era, sort of grimy, like everyone is just trying to make a buck kind of, I feel like it's kind of been a little bit lost in the franchise. And I
Mm-hmm.
was very impressed that Brer Panther was able to kind of like, once again, sort of like how Tegan was able to kind of like reel the backrooms in from sort of like, the Slender Man style, like lore explosion that's happened on the internet to the core concepts. I feel like Brer Panther kind of did the same thing here with the Scooby Gang.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And I fucking love that Brer Panther included like really obscure theme park in jokes. Because honestly, I feel like that is absolutely something that Lagoon would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a very fun idea to have those different callbacks and stuff. And I will say that overall, I thought the story was, like I said, the story is something that matters to me a lot whenever there's IP adaptation. Is like, does it feel authentic to the story? And like you said, it really does feel not just authentic to the story, but like authentic to like the
Classic
original
Hanna-Barbera
classic Scooby Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that he nailed the story and everything. Like I said, the only thing that I was very confused about is just
The flow of it.
how right how do the characters fit into everything? Like how does it work for me as a guest
Mm.
here in this attraction?
But I still think that like Bear Panther really is kind of making a resume for himself where the stuff he does isn't like it's never like the biggest component of any given project.
Mhm.
And there are a couple times where like it doesn't really fit in that well with the rest of the prompt.
Yeah.
But he is making really strong stuff that is really capturing his personality. And I think even if he's eliminated this next project, I think he can hold his head high.
Well, I will say it's worth noting that he had the he did have the Waltz fault that ended up not mattering. That he was going to be up for elimination. It's definitely worth noting that uh, if we did have to eliminate somebody, it definitely wouldn't have been Brett Panther at this point.
Probably not, honestly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that he definitely had contributions that would have precluded him from being eliminated. But yeah, so great work again, and yeah, so this was kind of where I started getting like I had to go back and look at the requirements. Like how many mazes did we ask for again? Like
Well, to be fair,
there's a
we
lot
asked
here.
for 3, but I said they could do more if they wanted to. So
Right, and I'm honestly glad they did because it's like looking at this project, right? It's like he did a lot of individuality in all these projects because they
absolutely, yeah.
basically did all of it to independently. Like all the mazes, there were what one, two, three, four mazes plus the show plus the scare zone
Mm-hmm.
that were
Plus the
all
food.
right plus the food, but like the big things, right?
Yeah.
Were where everybody had one, and then Pi was responsible for putting the entire presentation together.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really cool to get like just all that individuality pulled in.
Definitely. All right, the one last thing we have to go over, I guess, is Candle Cove.
And the Midway, if you wanted to talk more about that.
Well, I feel like I pretty much said my piece about it. I do think that it is very authentic to what the actual park is like.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, I find that area of the park a little bit creepy just in its own right. You have this weird not fairground, campground entrance into Lagoon. And it's fucking weird, Goofy, I swear, because it's like people just go in and out of it, right, to get to the fairground, and people are get to the, it feels like a fairground, so I'm sorry. People just go in and out of this to get to the campground. And the weirdest part of Lagoon's layout to me is that genuinely there is no clear defined point where the campground ends or where the park ends and the campground begins. Like,
that's super weird.
There are like fucking picnic areas in the middle of walkways. It is
What?
bizarre. I'm not even kidding.
That's
like there's
insane.
a whole back area kind of like behind the main midway, but kind of but and you have front the Pioneer Village off to the side, and that whole back area is all just picnic pavilions for the campgrounds. It's so weird. And then, but you have you have the, not Frontier Village, you have Pioneer Village, and Pioneer Village is like way out there, right? Like you have to walk like probably a good, I don't know, maybe probably a good quarter mile off the beaten path just to get to it. And it's not like that's nothing. Like that has both of the park's major water rides in it. And it's just a straight up dead end. Like it's such a weird layout.
That's very bizarre.
Like you go into Pioneer Village and once again there's like there's this like epic, like I genuinely think that Pioneer Village is a little bit better than Ghost Town at Knott's Berry Farm. I know that's a controversial statement, but I'm sticking with it. But then like immediately surrounding Pioneer Village is more fucking campground space. It's so weird. So anyways, my whole point with this is that, yes, there is campground space that people camping on property just walk in and out of. And that's honestly why with Lagoon, when you go in, you have to show people the hand stamp to go on the rides.
Yeah.
Because that way, that's the only way they can monitor who has paid for the rides and who hasn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, I will say on the Crimson Carnival thing, I
feel like me just laying out the Lagoon layout is like the most scary thing in this whole podcast.
Honestly, it is. Like, oh my gosh, we're used to talking about like Disney and Universal and stuff, and there's this one. Like, it's the scariest part of it all.
No, Lagoon's layout is straight up fucking bizarre.
That's nuts, man. That's crazy.
Like, there's a main gate and everything, right? It's so weird. There's a main gate, and yet there's a million different side entrances.
So strange. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I would just say that I think that this was a slightly
Tegan
more,
says
I guess,
the Lagoon, but even doing research, I was like, what the hell is this layout?
Dude, it sounds nuts. I'm gonna have to look at it after we finish the podcast, honestly. But no, I thought that it was a good idea. It felt a little bit more like a kind of what you expect coming into these. Which isn't a bad thing at all.
Evil, it's a pretty standard like fright zone concept, right?
Right,
it really
right. It was definitely a very a creepy concept overall, though. So I thought it was done well. But yeah.
All right, and finally, Candle Cove.
Yes,
I think this was a super creative idea for a show, and I will say that Lagoon does have a pretty substantial. Like it's not an indoor theater or anything, but it's a pretty nice outdoor theater that's like covered and everything.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So with Candle Cove, I do think that I would have I think that the one issue I have with this is that I feel like they maybe played it a little bit too close to the vest with whole gimmick of like, oh, it's an actual episode of Candle Cove where there's not like a ton of creepy stuff that actually happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like they could have been a little bit more over the top with the actual creepy factor. But then again, it is accurate to the creepypasta because with the creepypasta, it's kind of like less so about, overtly scary stuff and more so about like, wait, did that shit really happen the way I thought it happened?
Yeah.
So in that regard, I think it probably worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. This was another one that I wasn't really familiar with. But I thought that it was a interesting idea. I thought it was cool that they were just like, we're just going to toss in a show as well. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm like fucking scrolling through Facebook and I forgot my phone was muted.
It's okay. But yeah, so like I don't have a lot to say about it just because I don't know a ton about it. I did think that it was interesting, and
if you ever do want to look up the creepypasta itself, it's probably like a 5-minute narration. It's pretty short. But all right. So I think that's about it for the project.
Did you want to talk about the food at all, or?
I don't really have a lot of notes for it. I am disappointed by the lack of actual pasta.
That would have been pretty good.
Like, I was genuinely hoping that y'all would just make all the food pasta related. That was my hope. Not the least of which is I'm a basic bitch Italian American, so like I love my pasta.
I mean, you don't even have to be like an Italian American for that. Like, I think that pretty much everybody loves pasta at this point.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I am like it is like my favorite.
You have more justification for it.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. So I guess the only other thing to is there anything else we need to go over? We already talked about the party bus thing with Pi.
Right.
I very much look forward to seeing what Pi actually comes up with.
Right, because like I mean, there is some motivation to do stuff, but at the same time, it's like he's holding himself accountable to do something to kind of help bolster his
I will say
resume
he already started a full brainstorming thread with himself and all the judges.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot what the brainstorm what the Walt's fault was, and so whenever I got an email saying that there was a new thread, and I looked at it, I was like, "What the heck is this?" It's like Pi just decided to randomly include us on this solo project.
Oh God.
I just want you judges to see that I'm doing my extracurriculars.
Oh,
I was just so confused, man.
To be fair, I don't really think I've been doing that great of a job of like communicating with you about what the next Walt's Vault stuff is going to be. So,
well, see, like I know that we've talked about them before.
Yeah, right.
It's like I just like completely forget, and then it's like
I don't have a good track record of like making Goofy be on the same page as me when I reveal the Walt's Vault stuff.
It's usually a surprise at this point, or it's like like, what was it? What was last week? Like, oh yeah, we actually need to figure out what
straight up, the auto nomination.
Yeah.
Right.
But we POMVP this week.
Oh yeah, shit, we totally forgot about that. Yeah, let's announce it.
I will say it's actually a little funny with how you've talked about this project. The POMVP for this round goes to Ace.
I mean, that is the glory of the PO MVP, man. It's like Ace did do a lot as far as the presentation goes.
Yeah. No, I agree. There wasn't exactly an easy choice with.
And I always really appreciate that with the PO MVP. It's like you don't have to give it to the person who did the most work. It's completely up to you. Like that's part of the. Like I feel like the PO MVP is like one of the very few like actual strategic components of the season we have left.
Oh yeah, I agree. Well, okay, I will say, Paragon did provide some justification for it, in that he said that it was really tough decision for him. I'm just saying because he's not here to defend himself, but not that there's anything to defend himself for, because there, like I said, there. Anyways, I'm not needing to defend myself to you people. Anyways, he said that he gave it to Ace because Ace stepped out of his comfort zone. Delivering a great,
which is totally fair. That's absolutely valid,
right? And he was also super busy this week, so that commitment to working hard for the project earned the PO MVP, which is definitely a great reason for it, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so guys, y'all take notes, okay? I legitimately, I am going to spoil, like, I'm not going to tell you exactly what the prompt is, but I'm going to spoil every franchise that's going to be included, okay?
Do you want to know what's crazy about this? Like, 2 minutes ago, I got the YouTube video, like, up on my computer. 2 minutes ago, there were 2 people watching, and now there's, like, 5 watching. Like, a couple people have jumped in to hear this part, the spoilers, right now.
All right. So, obviously, we're doing Metroid, Star Fox, F-Zero. I feel like those are kind of like the big 3 as far as, absolutely Star Fox is included, Chaos Cat. I feel like those are like the big 3 as far as Nintendo sci-fi IPs. Mm-hmm. But I will also throw in Pikmin as well as Earthbound. And also, fuck it. Like, it probably won't be a requirement, but it'd be nice if there was something Mario Galaxy related. Doesn't have to be a full attraction, but something Mario Galaxy related would be nice.
Yes.
No, you can't let you do that, Star Fox.
So, like, whatever I say,
you guys need to have a Star Fox coaster with a barrel roll. It's like a fucking requirement.
I will say, like, with this one, it is
Kirby's an interesting
a good idea.
I feel like Kirby is like ambiguous if he's sci-fi or not. I could see the argument for it, but I also kind of place Kirby in more of like the more generic, like Mario Donkey Kong side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're working with enough already. I don't really feel like Kirby is such a weird freaking character. Like, I've had in my headcanon for years and years and years how I want to pull off a Nintendo Super Smash Brothers like cinematic universe. And Kirby is like the thing that is the hardest to nail down what I would want to do with Kirby.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what you would do with Kirby. Like,
there's way more to do with characters like King DDD and Meta Knight. So it's not like it's not like the franchise itself is dry for material. It's just Kirby himself is dry as like, you know, like you cannot make a Kirby movie as easily as you can make an Ant-Man movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But so yeah, take notes, guys. Star Fox, Metroid, F-Zero, Earthbound, Pikmin. Those are the big 5. Take notes. And I think that's about it, right? I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I think so. I will say that, you know, this next one is going to be a little bit more research intensive, but the one that you're doing right now is like kind of open to everybody. So yeah, I think that we've covered everything, though. I don't think that we've got any other random things to.
Tegan, don't forget about F-Zero in that lineup.
Yes.
And Ant-Man took like a decade to get off the ground, I think. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, big thanks to Chaos Cass. I'm sorry, Chaos Cass. Jesus. Do you watch Survivor? Do you know that reference?
I do. Yes. I do.
Okay, good. I'm glad you do. That Goofy, nice. You've won back my goodwill with that.
Look at that.
I'm like, all right, he actually gets one of my references this time.
It doesn't happen very often, but but when it does, it's beautiful.
All right. So Chaos Cat, Tegan, I will have a Metroid project ready by the time Project 10. I bet you will, Tegan. Tegan, I will say, I will make this one note, okay? I should probably Tegan, I will say don't overload the project with you, because obviously it's something that you are very passionate about, but I want to see teamwork from everybody. And honestly, if you are just kind of like commandeering it and sort of like, am I making sense, Goofy? I want to put this delicately, but like, I don't want to just see Project 10 be the Tegan project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
like,
get it.
I feel like by doing that, it would almost hurt her.
Well, you're saying this assuming that we're not going to eliminate her for psychologically torturing children that go into the back rooms.
I'm not saying that. Like, I'm saying, I don't know.
I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
this is like a very, very Tegan, like obvious Tegan project. But no, I think that, you know, Tegan's kind of notorious isn't the right word. She's famous for being a great teammate, and I don't think it's going to be
absolutely. Yeah. So, just Tegan, just be mindful about that. I'm sure you have a ton of ideas about everything going into next project, but just be mindful. You know, there's going to be 5 other people on your team. So
yeah, come on, be a good teammate for once.
I know, right? God. Anyways, all right. So yeah, so thanks to Tegan, OSU Phantom, Chaos Cat. My God, were those the only 3 people we had the whole time? I actually feel kind of lonely now.
Man, this is how I feel every time I'm like talking to my friends, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you're here." I live a sad life.
Did we really only have 3 people here?
Yes, we did. But you also had me. Thank you very much.
All right.
I was here, Tiki. Come on.
Okay. All right. And on that note, folks, have a good night. See you later.
Adios.